Word.
You're damn right, people. Welcome back to the Word on the Street podcast. Coming at you live. It is March the 18th, depending on where you are, time zone wise. March the 18th, the year 2000 in Chael, as always. With me, producing the show, holding it down, co-hosting, Jake from the MMA podcast. How you doing, Jake?
We don't have fans. This is a network.
What's up, Ramses? Doing well.
Excellent. Good to have you here. And of course, we'll get right to our guest. It's the main event right away, people. We start off that way. He is returning to the podcast after a brief hiatus to film the Ultimate Fighter the Ultimate Fighter Brazil Season 3. He's just returning from Brazil. He's been around. He's been everywhere, man. He's the Johnny Cash of MMA. He is the living legend himself, Team Sonnen Coach Jamie Huey. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, guys. How are you?
I'm all right,
Good to
man.
be back.
I'm living, man. Surviving. Yeah, dude. It's good to have you back. It's been a while, of course. A lot of questions for you, but at the top of everyone's list, just overall, man, you're back. You made it home safe. Nobody killed you. Chael
Not
Sonnen
yet.
is alive. Your whole team made it back from Brazil. A lot of people were worried about that. What can you say overall about your tough experience in Brazil as opposed to the first tough season 17 over here in the United States in Vegas? Overall, yeah. What's your take, man? How was it?
I would say it was. God, how do you wrap all that up? I mean, specifically, just the experience of the Ultimate Fighter Brazil. I don't know. I might use the word insane. The second thing I would say about it is get Fight Pass, because you're not going to want to miss this season. It was completely different than season 17, day and night. Tough guys on our team. Wanderlei had tough guys on his team. Just a completely different experience, definitely, going into the Brazil season.
Yeah, and we'll break it down a little bit more. We do have tons of specific questions about the season. Of course, you can watch the season of The Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3 exclusively on the UFC Fight Pass. Get yours today at UFC.tv. We're on episode 2. It airs Sunday nights on the Fight Pass around, let's just say around 9 or 10. Depends on where you are in the U.S., of course, but it's around then, 9, 10, 11. Definitely the first 2 episodes, I liked it. Of course, part of it is in Portuguese, but the subtitles are, it's not like these goofy subtitles where like shit's misspelled and it's not even the right word.
And you don't need subtitles to watch an MMA fight.
Exactly. It's the fights themselves, of course, are not captioned. There's no boom bam, of course. But yeah, like I said, we're 2 episodes in. It's been awesome so far. The fights, Coach, I have to ask you right away. The fights in Tough Brazil that we've seen so far. We've seen the fights to get in the house, of course. Some of them were crazy awesome. It looks like you got 2 technicians in there. And then I have to say, some of these fights, it looks like one guy has absolutely no idea what MMA is at points. Some of the fights are a little sloppy. You were there in person, of course, and you were even cornering some of these people. Any thoughts on the skill level, the caliber of the fighters that auditioned and made it to the first few episodes to get in the house? What's your take on the skill set you saw?
The kind of stereotypical thing, probably going into an experience like this is you're going to Brazil, the home of jiu-jitsu. So you suspect that everybody's there is going to be ground guys, and they're all going to take the guy down and you're going to have a whole season of guys rolling around on the ground. But it couldn't be farther from the truth. There's some very high level strikers. And obviously I can't get into specifics who and whatnot, but there are some very strikers in Brazil. There's some coaches over there that are doing some Muay Thai. There's some boxing coaches over there. There's some very high level strong. Obviously, the jiu-jitsu over there is where the origin of it. So you got very high level all around fighters. It's hard to it's kind of hard to judge the talent based on the fight to get in the house. Because these guys are still just, they basically, they show up, there's 32 of them, they're staring at each other. They don't know who they're going to fight. Then they find out who they're going to fight. They just made weight. So they're probably a little kind of loopy, dehydrated. They're getting hydrated. This fight means everything just to get into the house. They have to win this. They're thrown in a dressing room with a bunch of coaches, and they don't know us. And we don't know them. And you're walking out there to a cage with a guy and you're kind of asking him what his skill set is and if he knows anything about his opponent. Because we really don't get a lot of information initially on these guys. So they go out there, they fight their fight. The guys that win stay in the house, and guys that don't, obviously they go home. But it's a lot to get through in that first day, man. And it's a pressure cooker for these guys. They don't know us and we don't know them. So they're going out there and it's the most important fight in their life at that time. So, you might not see the greatest display of ability initially to get in the house sometimes based on that. But, I can tell you, I can vouch for these guys. I mean, you could put these guys up against any season of The Ultimate Fighter, and these guys are going to hang in there with any of them.
Yeah, I believe that about the people that made it into the house. But I got to say, man, on Sunday's episode, which was the second episode, they were showing the remaining fights to get in the house. There was this one dude, man. He was... He was fighting, I forget his name, and I don't know. It was the dude who he was fighting with the guy, and a couple seconds into the fight, he starts crying and trying to call timeout for himself because his finger he claimed it was broken, his finger. And they were showing his finger, and I was expecting like a disaster, a nightmare or something. It just looks like he was bending it himself. Like, did you watch that fight? What was that guy's story? Did they cut something out where he was in horrible pain or something? Because, I'm just calling it like I see it.
Sure.
That guy looked like he hung his head in shame, probably going home that night. Do you remember the fight that I'm talking about?
I do. I think I can't remember. I think Clayton or Scott cornered him.
Yeah.
And we basically leapfrog. There's one guy working the cage, and then Scott's warming up a guy, and then I'm right behind Scott, and then he's out there sitting in jail. I believe from what the discussion I had heard after the fact that he took a kick in the finger, and it dislocated his finger, and it bent it back where it looked pretty nasty. They were able to get his finger back in there, but obviously there's no timeout, so he was disqualified for that. But from what I understand, he was trying to get back into the fight. So, his finger was displaced. Again, I wasn't really there. I didn't see it. I was in the back warming up the next fight. So
yeah,
I don't think he was looking for a way out. I mean, there was a legitimate injury. A lot of guys would say they just make a fist, put their finger back in the socket, go out there and throw punches. For me, yeah, okay. So, what are you going to do, man? I mean, unfortunately, the kid's opportunity to fight was cut short.
Yeah.
But, it's the way it goes in the sport.
With you and your boxing background, I got to ask, have you ever broken a finger or broken your hand just doing the boxing thing?
My wrist. I had a wrist problem.
Yeah.
And then I was sparring with one of the guys I trained. I was working with him in the gym today, and I was parrying a couple punches, and my elbow kind of tweaks out every once in a while on my left side. So, I mean, I've got a couple of things like that. I think when I was in, the only time I ever really broke a finger, I think I was in like ninth grade, and I don't know, I got in a fight and a guy had a belt buckle on.
No shit.
And I think I broke my finger on his belt buckle.
Going for the dick punch or something?
I don't know. I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to fight back then. I mean,
Yeah, you got to punch below the belt, not on it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it was a long time ago. Other than that, no finger injuries. You might have wrist and the thumb, but typically, if you ball up your fist, you're not going to break your fingers.
Yeah,
they're wearing boxing gloves anyway.
Yeah, I know if I got into a fight, my wrists would just explode. I need wraps, but street fighting situation, thug jitsu, you don't have time for that. But that's a whole other podcast. Coach, the question that everybody wants to know after seeing the TUF hype and the rivalry, what the hell is wrong with Wanderlei? Like, you were up there close and in person. Is this guy really as crazy as he's coming off? Did you, and more importantly, did you ever interact with him personally? I mean, I know, of course, anybody that's been a fan of the show and listened to previous podcasts knows that John Jones, when he was going up against Chael Sonnen in the first TUF season 17, John Jones actually, approached you with an offer to switch teams and start coach him in boxing. I'm guessing Wanderlei didn't do that, but did you actually interact with him? Is he as crazy as he seems, or do you just not even know? Seriously, what was up with Wanderlei, man? What's wrong with this guy?
I did. Wanderlei was very friendly. He always kind of went out of his way to shake my hand. Hello, coach. How are you? Having said that, Chael is my guy. I've got Chael's back to the end. So, I'm always going to be loyal to Chael no matter what happens. But, as far as me and Wanderlei went, yeah, he was always very respectful, man. He was always very friendly to me when I walked past. There might be some things on the season that people might want to tune in and see. But my experience with Wanderlei personally, I can't say that I didn't like the guy. I'm Team Chael. Everybody knows, part of the dark side and the bad guys. But Wanderlei was very respectful to me when I was there.
Wow, that's actually pretty surprising because I don't. He doesn't seem he doesn't seem like the smartest individual. I would think he would just lump you as being an extension of Chael and just hate on you by default. That's what I kind of picture, but he was actually pretty respectful because he's not coming off that way whatsoever in the show.
Well, the rivalry between him and Chael is 150% real. I mean, I can tell you firsthand that there's nothing pretend about that. Wanderlei absolutely does not like Chael at all, not even a little bit. So there's definitely some things in this season that people are going to want to tune in and see. But I can promise you that there's nothing scripted in regards to the way Wanderlei feels about Chael.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely ask you about whatever you can tell us about the the cat's out of the bag. It's in the previews, it's in the promo, for the whole entire show. of course, it's now known as the Brazilian brawl that went down during the filming of TUF between Chael and Wanderlei. I'll ask you about that in a second. But Jake from the MMA podcast has a couple questions for you. Jake, you were on with Coach Jamie, the living legend, Huey from Team Sonnen. What's up, man?
Yeah, Coach, it's awesome having you back. The first thing I wanted to ask, just today the UFC released the video where Chael shows us his digs in Brazil. Were you also staying at the Sonnen compound? Did you have a different place in Brazil you were staying? What were your digs like, I guess? I'm thinking of the right word, but I can't. Yeah, accommodations. That was the word I was thinking of. Damn it, I was like, what is the proper word here? But yeah, what were your accommodations like?
They were nice, man. The UFC, Floresta, who was the production company there, and obviously the Ultimate Fighter, man, they took care of us over there. They put us in a very nice hotel. Had a beautiful room with a beautiful view up on the 13th floor, overlooking São Paulo. We had breakfast down there that that we could eat during the day. When we were on set, there was actually a little restaurant that we could go to, and we would sign in. We could eat lunch there for free. A lot of the time we just wanted to get off set, so we would walk from the set. We'd walk down the street from São Paulo, me, Chael, Clayton, Scott, Vinny, Coach Eric Albarcin, and we'd walk down the street to this big, gigantic restaurant. We'd have lunch there. There'd be 1,000 people. Everybody recognized Chael. Everybody wanted an autograph and a picture. So, it was they took good care of us. I was at no point, as far as accommodations went, I really couldn't complain. It was nice. They'd pick us up in a bus every day, cart us through São Paulo traffic, which I will tell you is absolutely just terrible. Worst traffic there. Oh my God. It's one of the biggest cities. São Paulo is really like the capital of South America. That's where all the business and pretty much everything goes. So it's a huge city, a lot like Mexico City. But as far as accommodations, man, it was nice. I really can't complain. But obviously, no, we didn't stay with Chael. Chael was probably at least an hour from where we were. They'd pick him up in a bulletproof car. He had 2 guys that had guns on him at all times.
Jesus.
So he was very well protected, very well taken care of. We didn't have the same type of security, but we didn't really actually need it. I got, for Christmas, I got a pocket knife from Ramses, a Joe Louis pocket knife. And so that was all we needed.
Hell yeah.
And I think I used it to cut in a couple mangoes or something. But other than that was about all the use I needed. And the security, we were fine. In fact, we stayed in the same hotel as Wanderlei's coaches, on the same floor as Wanderlei's coaches. So it was good.
Oh, wow, nice. Yeah, another question sort of has a little bit to do with that same video. Chael talked a little bit about the food in Brazil and said especially the fruit was so sweet. It was the sweetest fruit ever. He loved the Brazilian cuisine. What did you think of the Brazilian cuisine over there?
Oh, so good, man. The food over there is the fruit. I mean, every day they had this big fruit basket. And they had it in a break room, and sometimes they'd bring it into our locker room. And it had bananas, it had grapes, and it had pears, and it had all. And for the first week, I couldn't eat enough fruit, man. I was just eating so much. Every day I'd go in there and I'd get grapes. The grapes were so good over there. As far as the fruit went, it tasted completely different than it does over here. Here they pick it on the other side of the country and they freeze it and they ship it. Over there, everything was very fresh. Chael turned me on to a food. Oh God, Koshina. I think it was called Koshina, and it's kind of shaped like a teardrop, but it's pretty big. It's about the size of a you put it in the palm of your hand, it would take up your hand, kind of shaped like a teardrop. And it's kind of like a masa, like a tamale, but it's different. It's a little sweeter. Then inside they have like chicken, and oh my God, I couldn't. Chael goes, oh, you got to try these. You got to try these. And I tried one, and like every single time I walked past the place and sold them, I had to get one. So food was amazing in Brazil. And it's interesting because the sushi is really good in Brazil.
Really?
The largest population of Japanese outside of Japan live in Brazil.
Oh man, it was real sushi.
So it was great. The sushi was out amazing. The pizza in Brazil, they have their own kind of twist on their version of what pizza is, but it was freaking good, man. And
what was different
baking,
about it?
like they're very into. The ingredients are a lot different. Instead of a lot of yellow cheese, there's a lot of white cheese over there, but there's a lot of different cheese in Brazil that you don't necessarily get anywhere else. So the pizza was different. The crust was very thin and kind of crunchy, flaky, but overall the pizza was amazing there too. I went to a Burger King and a McDonald's, and I had a Whopper and I had a double cheeseburger, whatever. Terrible. It was terrible. It was the worst thing. It was the worst McDonald's and Burger King I've ever had in my life. Other than that, like, they nailed it just on about everything. Yeah. Now here's something weird. The coffee is terrible. Brazil is very famous for their coffee.
South
it's the
American
worst.
coffee?
They drink it. It's like, have you ever had like Turkish coffee? It's thick,
Bitter.
thick black, and it's super strong. I mean, you can't drink it. So it's so strong, I got to dilute it with water. But once I dilute it with water, now it's like room temperature, or it's cold again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I couldn't quite nail the coffee. I went into a Starbucks, got a caramel macchiato. That was pretty good. The Brazilian coffee over there, unless you really like that Turkish black, thick, small little things of coffee, like I couldn't nail that. And then they drink them in plastic cups, which didn't make any sense to me either. So that was like a thing over there. Plastic cups, and with all the thing, everybody's talking about drinking water out of plastic, bottles and everything nowadays. Hot coffee in plastic cups didn't sound like a good idea, but that was kind of the way it went there.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a ton about Brazilian culture over the next few weeks, but before we get to Ramses, I want to ask you about one more thing, sort of back to the TUF season, which you can't catch every Sunday night on Fight Pass. This past Sunday, I was watching the episode, and the episode sort of wrapped up. It's supposed to be time to pick teams, but then Wanderlei asked Chael to apologize for his comments he made in the run-up to the Anderson Silva fight about Brazil. Chael just dismisses the ploy as Wanderlei just trying to mug for the camera, bring attention to himself. Chael doesn't apologize. Wanderlei says he'll refuse to continue shooting the show, walks off. What do you think the motives were for Wanderlei to sort of pull that out at the last minute, saying, hey, you have to apologize now or I'm walking off the show? What was that all about? That was crazy.
Man, I wish I could, this would be a great topic for next week once it goes on.
Okay. We'll save it
once
for
they actually
next
put it on
week.
Fight Pass. I would love to go in more on depth on that. And that's kind of the cliffhanger. I'd really strongly, if everybody missed the fights to get in the house, okay, not a problem. You missed the fight to get in the house. They did the character building with both guys. If you haven't seen it yet, now's the time to get on the Fight Pass and get the subscription. It's like $10, $9 a month. We run for 13 seasons. There's tons of content on there. In fact, I watched Royce Gracie fight Ken Shamrock today at Oil Can Henry's, getting my truck serviced, getting my oil changed on my smartphone. I watched Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie fight today. So, in fact, I watched Mike Pierce who I cornered to fight against Johnny Hendricks. I watched that, I think, yesterday on my smartphone when I was waiting for something. So, anyway, my point is, get Fight Pass. If you missed the first 2 episodes, not a problem. Catch up with it. That is the cliffhanger as of right now. Wanderlei is asking Chael to apologize to all of Brazil for what he said, and if he doesn't, he's going to walk off the show. And Chael says, I absolutely will not apologize. I take that as you were forfeiting. So with that having been said, go ahead and step aside. Have a nice day. We'll find a new coach, okay? So that's the cliffhanger. So, again, I encourage everybody to get on Fight Pass.
It's what we call a teaser, ladies and gentlemen.
Crazy season. It is. It is only a piece of what's about to happen.
Nice. People only on Fight Pass unless you live in Brazil, in which case it is on Globo. I guess one of the biggest networks. That's got to be huge. Coach, all right. So you kind of spoke a little bit earlier about now that it's all over, I think it's safe to kind of. I think you can probably talk at least about the security situation while you guys were down in Brazil. You mentioned Chael was in the armored car with at least 2 guys with full-on automatic machine guns. What else? What else can you tell us about the security situation? Like Dana White himself said, Chael had more security than Obama. Tongue in cheek there. But what was it like there? Especially for the head coach. Of course, anytime you were with Chael, you were, of course, a target yourself. Any hairy situations, close calls? Were you guys able to move freely about the city, or was it seriously like, did it feel like you were on lockdown the whole time? What was it really like?
So to kind of put it in perspective, here's how big the Ultimate Fighter is in Brazil. Season 17, when we coached against John Jones, we peaked at, I believe, 1.6, maybe 1.7 million viewers. The Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3, where we're against Wanderlei, we opened up at 12 million. So you're talking about a completely different animal here. Down there, it's like baseball here back in like the 50s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody knows who Chael is. We go anywhere, people see him, they know who he is. He might have got some bad looks here or there. That's probably a better question for him. I wouldn't know. But as far as any time we went anywhere, restaurants, people were lined up, excited to see him. They were happy to take a picture with him, and he was happy to sign an autograph, and he'd sign every autograph, take every picture. So, it was kind of one of those things like they were prepared if something bad was going to happen, but they weren't, there really didn't seem, at least from my perspective, when I was spending time with them, never really, at no point did I ever really feel threatened with Chael. Outside of that, we pretty much came and went as we wanted. Me, Clayton, Scott, and Vinny, and Eric, Coach Eric. We all pretty much kind of came and went as we wanted for the most part. I mean, initially they were very, tell us, don't wear your jerseys, don't wear any clothes, don't tell anybody why you're here. So initially it was very, we were all very aware of what was happening around us at all times. Mm-hmm. Then as the season kind of went through it a little bit, we all became a little bit more comfortable with the situation where we were. It put us in a nice place. So, coming and going wasn't bad. Towards the end, I'd go out and I'd take a walk by myself. I'd go to Starbucks. I'd walk around the city a little bit and see them. So, I got to see a lot of São Paulo, which was great. I got to see a lot of Brazil. Went to Rio de Janeiro last week. I was there. I never felt threatened. It's kind of, I think, one of those things, like if you kind of walk around like you're not supposed to be there, if you walk around like a victim, you kind of stand out, and people that are looking for something like that. But if you just kind of act like you're supposed to be there and you walk down the street like you own the place, then for the most people, I think people just kind of leave everybody alone. So it was, I never felt threatened over the whole time I was there.
Hell yeah, good for you, man. We were all worried, man. That was a big concern here, but it looks like, at least as far as as far as you're able to say, there weren't any crazy incidents so far, or during the time you were there.
Not outside. Now we're talking outside of the show. We're talking about after the show, walking around the city. In regards to what happens on the show, yeah, you gotta watch.
Yeah,
It
seems like Chael was attacked several times from what we've even seen on previews. All right, a little teaser at least. You don't have to go into exactly what happened, but I mean, they've shown it on the commercials. There's a shoving match that at least goes down. So, they showed even, Wanderlei takes a swing at Chael. Are you able to at least tell us in that moment, without, revealing what actually followed next, was that expected at that point? Were you like, oh man, this guy's going to take a shot at Chael at any moment? Or did that come out of nowhere, what we've seen so far with, Wanderlei actually getting physical? Was that a surprise to you when it went down? That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for any plot.
Yes, absolutely. It was a huge surprise, and it was, I cannot wait to that episode to talk about it. We're gonna do a show just on that incident alone. I can't wait to talk about that. But it was absolutely 100% not expected. Had no clue that was going to happen.
When the preview dropped, the internet, a lot of people were were saying it was a work, that it was fake and staged. Of course, I knew better, having knowing you.
There was nothing staged about that. I promise you.
Exactly.
There was zero staged on that.
There you are.
In fact, there's reports out there of other occurrences that happen with other people, and I won't get too much into detail. Obviously, people can go out there and explore it on the internet. But yeah, that was not expected. There was, I don't think, production. I don't think anybody expected that it was. If something like that was going to happen, that it would have went to the level that it did.
Yeah, and there was when Pat Cummins. I don't even know if you were around for this a fiasco. But Pat Cummins was going to fight Daniel Cormier, so he was like on some UFC video, and he was meeting up with Chael, having lunch or breakfast or something with Chael. Chael's talking about TUF and how. He said that Wanderlei eventually would start showing up to the filming with a mouthpiece and a cup ready.
Yep.
Was that just tongue in cheek there, or did it actually eventually reach that point? Oh God.
No, he came out. We're not talking about the same day as this fight.
Yeah.
He came out to the weigh-ins with a mouthpiece in his mouth. Not in his hand, in his mouth. So, yeah, we were always very aware of things like that. I mean, that's kind of one of those things. Guy walks out, you're not looking at his mouth to see if he's got a mouthpiece in there. But it became a situation where it got to that point where we were always very aware of people's body language, if somebody was carrying something in their hand. Yeah.
Well, and of course, I got to ask you about this. The word on the street is that Wanderlei, even after the filming, is posturing, is wearing a mouthpiece, is shoving of Chael, getting physical. The word on the street is that Wanderlei Silva has still not signed the actual fight contract to take on Chael in the fight. Um, what's your take on that? I mean, it's not even word on the street. This is pretty much fact. He has not signed the
Sure.
fight
Yeah.
contract yet.
Follow up.
Chael even tweeted about it. What's your take on that, man? Is Wanderlei scared, or what? What do you think is really going on here? As much as you're able to say.
You know, I honestly, you know, I don't know, man. That's kind of weird, right? I mean, he's kind of in a situation where if he doesn't want the fight, how does he get out of the fight and save face? If he is he going to take the fight? I don't know. I really honestly don't know, man. I think we're all kind of scratching our heads and trying to figure that out. He hasn't signed the fight, and I'm sure Dana and guys are talking to him about that, if he's going to take the fight or not. It's kind of weird. You kind of think like that's one of those things that gets pre-signed before the season, right? I mean, before they both agree to go on and coach, that they're going to make those adjustments and make sure that all those bases are covered, because that's really part of
The point of TUF.
the season, obviously.
Right, the theme.
Well, yeah, it's to promote the coaches' fight, and then obviously to really just showcase. I think it needs to be more showcasing the fighters personally than just hyping a fight between two coaches. And, I think there's some things that the Ultimate Fighter, might do a little different. But I'm kind of as dumbfounded as everybody else that isn't on paper, on contract, done deal yet. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you would think that would have been part of the TUF contract itself to sign also for the fight at the end of it. But that's definitely odd. So I got to ask, do you think the fight will happen, Wanderlei versus Chael? Do you think it'll actually happen at this point? If you had to take a guess, or your educated guess.
Honestly, right now, I don't know. I really don't. I think it could go 50-50.
Yeah.
I hope it does. I hope they make that fight. I think that's a great fight for the fans. I think it's a great fight for the rivalry. I think, maybe when the fight's over with, Wanderlei will, kind of drop a little animosity that he has against Chael, and they can shake hands, maybe not. But I think it's a fight that people want to see. It's one of the biggest rivalries in, Dana made the point, it's one of the biggest rivalries in the Ultimate Fighter, and possibly in in the UFC history. So yeah, I mean, give the people what they want. That's, let's make this fight happen. But if it doesn't, life goes on, and there's other fights out there, and see what happens.
Yep. And here's another question that the fans are, they're gonna kill me if I don't ask. But and this is probably something else that you can't answer. That's how it goes with the whole TUF thing and being on the inside of Team Sonnen. But I have to at least ask, the whole TRT thing, the fact that it's been banned. Has that even? I don't even know if you guys were still filming when that came down, or I don't think you guys were. I think this is too recent. So have you had a chance to? I mean, did Chael know that was coming down? Do you think? Basically the question at hand is: do you think that this is going to the TRT ban? Do you think it's going to prevent Chael from fighting? Do you think this is the end of Chael Sonnen's fighting career because of this? Do you even have a take on it? I know you might not know what it's going to do for Chael or not, but what's your opinion on the TRT ban? I got to ask.
I don't. I think it's kind of one of those things. It's a medical condition, medical condition. If it's, anything can be abused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that there's reputable, testing for stuff like that. Honestly, man, I'm really kind of shooting in the dark here on my facts. I don't know enough about it. It's not. I've never. I've really doesn't have a lot of experience in it, and it's kind of one of those things that I don't typically, talk to anybody about their medical conditions or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like I'm looking for an out here, man, but to be completely honest with you, even if I was, I just don't know a lot about it.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, there you go, people. I at least asked the hard question. It's not all softballs for me and my friend Coach Huey here. Another one. Okay, getting back to the TUF filming though. How did you guys deal with? You guys were at a disadvantage. Team Sonnen was because of the language barrier. How did you guys? Well, how did you personally deal with that? Was it difficult at all? Did you pick up Portuguese? Are you fluent now, or was it all hand charades? What happened?
We definitely had a disadvantage in that aspect. There were guys on the team on both teams that spoke English, spoke very fluent, good English. Production was very adamant about them answering all our questions in Portuguese. So obviously, if I was to say something to one of the fighters in English, and he understood exactly what I was asking or telling him, he had to answer me back in Portuguese, and then an interpreter had to tell me what he just said. So it kind of got tricky, man. For a while, it was like they were honest. They were just like, I'm trying, you're having a conversation and you're constantly going between somebody to kind of convey information. I understand if a fighter speaks only Portuguese and they don't speak English, I get that, but that definitely made it hard at times. And then that kind of loosened up towards the end a little bit where, the guys, maybe production felt like they got the shots that they wanted. I don't know. Then, we'd speak English back and forth a little bit between us and some of the guys. But it was tricky, man. It really was. You'd learn a couple little words here, like when you're working out. You want to tell the guys to stop or pick it up or they're doing good or switch. You'd pick up these little words and you'd use them. But, obviously putting a full sentence together was tough. I'm not fluent in Spanish by any means. I know a little bit enough to kind of get by. And Portuguese is very similar to Spanish.
Yeah.
So there were definitely some similarities, So, I would use things like that to kind of try to convey information in between. But we were definitely at a disadvantage not speaking Portuguese. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that would definitely be a pain in my ass for damn sure. Of course, we're gonna have you on, of course, hopefully numerous times in the future here. So I will keep it to one more question on my end before I see if Jake has anything left for you, Coach. I gotta ask because I did have the pleasure of interviewing Chael Sonnen's Brazil fan club. They seem like really nice people, the ones that I spoke to, and of course, during the filming of TUF. This cat's out of the bag. Chael actually met up with representatives of his Chael Sonnen Brazilian fan club. You were there. I've seen the videos. I was just wanting to know, how did that go? What was your take? How was the meeting? How were the people? Overall, man, the Brazil fan club. What do you have to say about that meeting?
They were great. I think they limited it to 10 or 12 people. They kind of selected either people that had been there in the longest, or I'm not exactly sure how they narrowed it down, but there were tons of people that wanted to go, but they narrowed it down to about 12. We met there at the hotel in a kind of a conference room. Walked in and gave everybody handshakes and signed autographs and took pictures. And, Chael, talked to everybody, and it was really a cool experience. They gave all the coaches, there's some flip flops over there that are super popular. These are like the Michael Jordan of flip flops, right? I think they're called Havanos. Havanos. I'm probably saying that wrong. So they gave us they gave us each one of the coaches a pair of flip flops that these are really popular. This company's been around for like 40 years. Vinny bought a pair as soon as he got there, and then they ended up giving him another pair during the fan club meeting. But everybody was super cool. There's a gal over there, Lou, who kind of heads up the fan club, and she kind of organized and got everything together. And it was a good experience, man. It was just fun hanging out with these people and talking to them. There were guys that came from all the way. There was one girl that came from, I can't remember what the name of the city is, but it was almost the farthest south point of Brazil. She had taken a bus. I believe it took her 12 hours to get to this meeting. Hung out with us for an hour, and then her plan was to jump back on the bus, and she was going to ride 12 hours to get back home again. So she's literally 24-hour bus ride to come up and hang out and get a picture and an autograph and hang out with us. So that was super cool. And there was a couple other guys that had traveled quite a great distance to be there. So we definitely appreciated everybody showing up, and it was a good experience for us and hopefully for them.
Yeah, they were buzzing for days afterwards, at least on the internet that I could see that it was a life-changing experience for everybody that was there. That's for damn sure. You could tell, and they were all just I read some of the articles in Portuguese. They were saying that they were surprised that the coaches, you guys, actually took the time, spent the time with them out like for more than an hour, just hanging out with them. Definitely that's awesome, man. I gotta say thank you on behalf of them. I mean, screw it. Thank you for doing that, man. That's you guys didn't need to do that. You guys didn't have to do that. I didn't see Wanderlei hanging out with his fan club.
Yeah, for us it was kind of probably as cool for us as it was for them. I mean, we're in a different country. We don't know anybody, and these guys are riding buses for 24 hours to come up and hang out with us for, we're unfortunately we're not as cool as they thought we were, but we appreciated them thinking we were and going to the level of bus rides and everything to get there. So it was fun, man. Everybody was really cool. I had a good time. I hung out with every single person that showed up. And we had some good laughs and everything. It was a good time.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures real quick before I give it over to Jake here. I saw some of the pictures where I didn't know that Vinny Magalhães has like a famous singing brother in Brazil. He's like the Juan Gabriel of Brazil or something. Was this news to you too? I mean, this guy's apparently like actually a celebrity. I never heard of this dude.
I knew he had a famous brother. We talked about it a long time ago. I can't remember why, but I knew this guy was famous, but I didn't know how famous. And then I went out with one of my buddies that works on production on The Ultimate Fighter. He actually took me out to a bar where they had like microbrews. Probably the only good beer that I had in Brazil. Sorry, guys. There's just the beers that they have in Brazil just aren't that good when you're from Portland, Oregon, and they got the greatest beers in the world here. So he took me to this microbrew place, and they actually did have some good microbrews. And so in conversation, it came up, and I asked him, I go, so who's Vinny's brother? Do you know this guy? Is he famous? He goes, oh my God. He goes, are you kidding me? You don't know him? So he pulled up a video, and he's kind of like the guy was super famous in the 80s.
Hell yeah.
But he was kind of like the Brazilian Prince, like how Prince used to be here. Very flamboyant, kind of that guy. He kind of had the Jerry curl hair, and that's Vinny's brother. Yeah,
He was
Prince in Brazil in the 80s.
Do you remember his name? Maybe Jake can play the show out tonight
God,
with
man,
one of his
I
tunes.
don't. I
I
don't.
don't
I
remember
don't.
either.
The guy, what he is, but the difference between him and Prince is the size. I actually met Prince. I was bouncing at a bar way back, and he did his after hours party there. So Prince is a little tiny guy. He's 85 pounds soaking wet. Vinny's brother is 6'4", got to be pushing 260 pounds. The guy's huge.
Yeah.
So definitely the difference right there was the size. But from what I understand, the music was kind of similar. Yeah, he's a big hit over there. In fact, when we left the fan club meeting, Vinny's brother showed up to see Vinny, and people were seeing Vinny's brothers that are leaving the fan club meeting, and they were just as excited to meet him as they were to meet us. So that was pretty cool.
Oh god, we'll try to dig up some of his music. I'll celebrate any albums he has, man. I'll get that going. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kept you on long enough. I'll give it over to see if Jake has anything left for you before we let you go, Coach, man.
Yeah.
But of course, we are going to keep up with you as this show progresses.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a couple questions your way regarding this past Saturday's UFC 171. First off, we obviously had that crazy story with Diego Sanchez blaming his loss on a bad beef tartare he ate the night before. You have any nightmare stories about someone eating something bad the night before the fight? And of course, we'd be remiss not to ask you about Kelvin Gastelum going out there with an impressive win against Rick Story in Dallas.
I'm glad you brought that up, because if you didn't, I was going to. As far as eating, let me think here. I have so many stories. I forget my stories. Here's not a food story, but kind of a food story. So you're eating, put your food down, people. I had two brothers, Eric and Antonio, and they were probably 11 and 12 years old. I took them down to Warm Springs Indian Reservation for a boxing tournament. They were both overweight. It was a tournament, 2-day tournament. They had to make weight. They were both over by probably 2 pounds, which would have bumped them up into the next bracket. So if that was what we had to do, that's what we were going to do. We had them weigh in. They didn't make weight, but, all right, let's try it. Hold on. Did you guys use the bathroom? Yes. Use the bathroom, coach. What did you eat? Okay. So, all right. So we send them back into the bathroom. And Eric comes out, and Eric's supposed to be 95 pounds. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, he gets on there, and he didn't lose an ounce. He's exactly the same. Okay. His brother comes out, Antonio, which was supposed to be, I believe, 100 pounds, comes out and lost 3 pounds. This kid's 100 pounds. He lost 3 pounds, went in the bathroom, and I can't even tell you. I don't know what happened in there. But he thought he was dry. He was dehydrated out, and he was ready to jump, So, yeah, that's not really food going in, but maybe food going out.
He lost 3 pounds in one bathroom session.
Kid lost 3 freaking pounds. We're looking at each other. We couldn't understand what the hell happened in there, but we weren't gonna. There was
implications that was how Kelvin made weight. But yeah, going on Jake's question.
Yeah,
what did you think of the Kelvin fight, man? And the build up, the weight cut thing. Know this guy. He's one of our, I think he's the guest with, tied with Uriah Hall for most appearances on the Word on the Street show, Word on the Street podcast. But yeah, Kelvin had a rough weight cut, and then the fight, man. What do you have to say about all that?
I thought Kelvin looked great in that fight.
Hell yeah, I'm watching it right now.
I know a lot of people were kind of, I think a lot of people were kind of not quite sure why Kelvin decided to take on Rick Story. Kind of, fairly early in his UFC career. Rick's a top guy. I mean, Rick at one time was maybe one fight away from fighting for the title. Rick beat Johnny Hendricks, who's now the champion. Rick's a local guy. Rick probably lives from where I'm at right now, maybe 25 minutes. So I know Rick's story. He used to train with Mike Pierce. I don't really know Rick personally. I mean, I've met him, but I don't have a personal relationship with him or anything. But so you know who Rick's story is. Basically, he's a tough guy, and he's a problem for anybody in there. As far as the fight went, you know, Kelvin's jab was just beautiful. Like he was on his jab, and I really think that kind of controlled a lot of the fight. You know, he did get you know, Kelvin caught a punch and kind of got knocked down. You know, but he fought through it. I definitely thought, you know, Kelvin did enough to win the fight. And that's a great win for Kelvin, as young as he is, moving up the ladder as fast as he is. It's fun to watch. You know, Rick's story, you know, he's a tough kid, man. You know, I think he needs to start kind of throwing some straighter punches. He's kind of a wide swinging guy. And that's good if you can catch a guy, but most guys are going to be they're going to be aware of that stuff. You see a wide shot coming, you got time to react, and you kind of telegraph him. So, I think Rick is a very solid fighter. I think there's obviously some adjustments that both guys, Kelvin and Rick, could make in the future as far as their stand-up, man. But it was a great fight, man. Both guys went out there and they gave it everything, and Kelvin came out on top. So it was fun to watch. That was, for me, that was the main event of that card. For me, was that particular fight.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm actually literally watching the replay by coincidence right now in the background here. How much of Kelvin's fight were you like looking at, Coach, and you were like, oh yeah, that's you know, not to say that, you know, it's all you, but you know what you drilled with the kid numerous times, you know, like the jab thing. Were you like, oh yeah, man, that's all me and him there? Like, I know it sounds douchey asking me if you want to take any credit for his improved striking, but I mean, you worked on it with him. Were you proud of his work? Like, obviously he got caught the one time. Have you even seen it enough to know like what he kind of maybe did wrong there? Would you have any advice for the kid, or was he pretty much doing everything by the book and looking spectacular?
You know, I mean, as far as credit, his hands look great. I can't remember. I saw him. He worked with a guy named Tony something that I believe is Hendrick's boxing coach, or maybe not. But I don't know. Tony something.
Yeah,
I read something about it.
Yeah,
so,
he trained with Hendricks.
Last thing I'm going to do is try to take credit for something when, you know, I'm in Brazil and I've got a bunch of guys that I'm coaching over there, and so obviously I wasn't part of Kelvin's camp. And whoever the guy that he worked with did an outstanding job, because Kelvin's jab was just beautiful. I mean, he had a great jab. Kelvin's always been a pretty good boxer. He's very unassuming. He moves his feet very well. There's definitely, you know, everybody needs to do something a little better. There's definitely some things I would like to see improved on in certain things, but I'd never get into specifics about that, you know, obviously, unless I was talking to Kelvin or his coaches, Terrell and Chance. So, but I thought he did an outstanding job, man. I mean, Kelvin is the guy that, you know, he was always the underdog. He was always the guy that just kept surprising people, and I think he did it again Saturday. So I'm having a blast, man. I'm really enjoying watching this kid succeed, and for me, it was an honor to be a part of that. You know, when he was first coming out.
I was so nervous watching that fight live, man. I was on the edge of my seat. I was more nervous for that fight than any other one. It was crazy watching that shit live. He was owning him, but then you were like, oh, my worst nightmare is he gets caught and knocked down. And he did, but he powered through it, man. I'm glad the kid made it through.
You know, Kelvin's greatest strength, I think, has always been his confidence. he's been wrestling since he's a kid. He's extremely physically strong. I remember me and Kelvin were kind of playing around one day at Rain, and we were grappling, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I went to grab this guy like in a guillotine, and he just kind of postures up, and I damn near couldn't get my whole arm around his neck because he's all core. He's a lot like he always reminded me a lot of Mike Pierce. He's just a big SpongeBob SquarePants body. I mean, he's just all core.
Those tank
he's got
bodies.
That big back, and he's just so physically strong, but mentally, he's just so confident in his ability. The kid doesn't believe that he can lose, and he goes out there, and even when he got dropped by Rick Story, he was in the fight. He was, he doesn't. You don't see that look on his face like, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now."
Yep.
He just goes out there and gets it. And he did that in the Tough House. He'd be rolling with Kevin Casey or Jimmy Quinlan, and somebody would catch him in an arm bar, and Kelvin would just kind of shake it off, and then he'd go right back and start grappling again. Where some guys, their egos, you could kind of see would get a little hurt, or, oh, this guy thinks that he can beat me now because I got caught in a submission. Kelvin never spent 2 seconds thinking about it. He got right back in the fight and kept fighting. So, a lot to be said about his mental state.
A damn juggernaut. I think he's obviously a contender, moving up to the number 13 spot in the welterweight rankings officially. I think it's only a matter of time, maybe a year from now, we see him actually contending for title fight or even in one. I can't wait, especially knowing, he was one of our friends first, and he's still got a head on his shoulders, definitely. Now, last question, Coach, before we let you go. Thank you for your time, of course, as always. You mentioned another coach that I'm embarrassed to say I've never even heard of on Team Sonnen's side. Aside from the, I don't remember the woman athlete's name from Brazil. She's apparently a big star or something, soccer, or maybe you can enlighten me on that one. But you also mentioned another guy on the team.
Yeah.
Who's this? What's going on?
Well, Hortensia is she's very, very famous basketball player in Brazil.
Right.
Believe they won the gold or the silver medal in the Olympics years back.
They beat the USA
over there. I don't watch enough Olympic. Yeah, they might have enough Olympic basketball to know, but very, very famous over there. I mean, she's very well known. We actually got a doll, kind of like an action figure of Hortensia. They gave us, so yeah, that kind of speaks to the level of success that she's reached over there. And then the other coach, Eric Albarracin, he was an Olympic wrestler, very elite wrestler. Him and Chael have known each other for a long time. It goes all the way back to college wrestling days. He's a small guy. He's not a big guy. I think he wrestled 110, maybe 105. I don't know what weight he was at, but he is actually the wrestling coach, one of the only, probably the only elite wrestling coach at his level in Brazil. He's part of Team Nogueira. He was on the Ultimate Fighter Brazil 2, I believe. He was on season 2. So he's a character. Eric is a character. Eric's very knowledgeable about wrestling. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He was an asset on our team. He's an absolute character though. So you'll kind of, he hasn't quite been introduced. He might come in a little bit later into the season. But if you saw the guy that was sitting in the audience, he had kind of the mohawk, pro hawk type the haircut, and he had the real funky glasses on. They showed him on the first and second episode. He was actually sitting in the audience.
He was like cheering somebody wildly, I believe. Is that the guy?
Yeah, he is a character, and he's gonna he brings in some pretty crazy stuff into the show at the end. So
okay,
but really a good dude, really a good person.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember seeing him, but now that you mentioned that, I do. He was the Brazilian hipster in the last episode, I believe. Um,
Yes, he's actually from Florida.
no
Uh,
shit.
his mom, I believe, is Colombian. So he's not actually Brazilian at all, but he
Oh,
does speak
okay.
Portuguese. And so, yeah, he's a character. Eric is, he's a knucklehead, man. He was a lot of fun now.
Well, there you go. Another Team Darkside coach. Like I said,
Actually,
coach.
the bad guys. We're the bad guys this season. Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
we
The
had to,
team.
yeah.
Yeah, with the
We're the
whole
bad guys, not the.
Yeah, with the whole Team Darkside thing, it's a little rough when it loses something in the translation, and of course the language barrier. Um,
Yeah.
but as far as I'm concerned, the Team Darkside coaches were back. Uh, Definitely have to, you know, um, we're gonna of course keep up with you, Coach. Hopefully, we can get the rest of the Team Sonnen coaches on to speak about their Brazilian experiences as the episodes unroll. Of course, anybody that doesn't know, and now you know, TUF Brazil, The Ultimate Fighter Season 3 on Fight Pass, UFC.tv, exclusively on Sunday nights. You're going to be able to see this go down. Um, we asked the good coach as much as we could, but there's a non-disclosure agreement. He would be sued to the point of homelessness if he actually did reveal or spoil anything that goes on. So of course, we won't. Yeah, there's questions that we're all begging to ask, but of course, the only way to find out for sure is to get your fight pass, people. I hate to.
Well, the first two episodes, obviously, the guys getting in, and then episode 3 kind of gets a little bit more personal. We pick the teams, and so there's going to be a lot to talk about. There's definitely not going to be a null and void in regards to stuff. So watch the next episode. And our next podcast Tuesday will definitely have more to talk about than we'll probably have time for.
Hell yeah! And if you haven't, he's hinted at it enough, people. The next episode of the Ultimate Fighter Brazil, it sounds like it's gonna be a good one for the books. And Coach, man, can't thank you enough. Hopefully, we'll talk to you. Of course, hopefully next Tuesday after the episode. Where can people find you, contact you on Twitter, in case they want to try to drag more answers out of you that you can't give them? What's up, man?
Kind of in process of setting up a couple seminars. I have one tentatively scheduled in Arizona, Yuma, Arizona. Don't have a date, working on it. Also, Anchorage, Alaska, have something going on up there. Yeah,
You're going to
having
Alaska?
fun. Doing a seminar, a boxing seminar for MMA.
You're going from
in
Brazil
Anchorage.
to Alaska.
It's crazy, man. I was in Mexico City not that long ago doing a boxing seminar, and then Lynchburg, Virginia, and
Shit.
and I just got back from Brazil, so it's crazy. It's been a ride, man. I'm really enjoying stuff. So Anchorage, Alaska. So I'm definitely going to get some salmon fishing in.
Yeah, the ice fishing.
All of it. I love fishing. I'm just not good at it. So
the salmon,
maybe I
dude.
get some practice. So.
Yeah, hopefully they have some sushi over there because the salmon has got to be like fresh, like in Brazil you have that jungle delicious fruit. It's that jungle fruit, none of this GMO processed crap. And in Alaska, you got that fish, man. It's all fresh. It's all nice and just cold. Oh man, I'm jealous already. Jesus, the sushi.
Yeah,
that got me when you mentioned the sushi in Brazil. That got me, man.
Oh, it was good, man. There's a place called Liberdade. I can't remember the area, but it's where a lot of the population of Japanese live over there.
Oh shit!
Oh man, it's just the restaurants are just amazing.
I swear this is my last question, but it's about the sushi, man. I'm a big fan. It consumes my life every time. I'm like obsessed with like that food. Like, do you have your favorite pieces, like your favorite types, like, or you just like give me whatever? I don't know how deep you are into the sushi game, man.
Here's basically my sushi game here. I put so much wasabi.
Oh,
it could
yeah.
basically be it could be popcorn and rice, and I wouldn't know. I mean, people will tell you, Clayton and these guys, they were making fun of me over there because especially the very last piece of sushi on my plate has to be so hot that my eyes water. So
Yeah,
the great thing about wasabi is it hits you really hard and then it's gone. But yeah, I'm like, cake frosting on that thing. I don't know why. I love the wasabi. So
it comes out
yeah,
of
all of it.
You can feel it like breathing out of your nose, like flaming out of your nose almost. Yeah, I do love that shit. Oh, damn it, man. Damn it, now I gotta go to Brazil. I gotta go to Alaska. Shit, damn. I'll carry the bucket for you, man. Yep, I'll do it, man. We'll figure this out.
Awesome.
But all right, Coach, we will let you go with that. Again, thank you for spending more time than you ever needed to. But hopefully, definitely, everyone's going to be watching the show, all the hardcores, and they are going to be tuning into the Warden Street podcast to hear more from you. Hopefully, we get you on next week, next Tuesday. And, yep, you can catch him on Twitter, people, at Coach Jamie Huey. Of course, Coach Jamie Huey on Twitter. Coach, thank you very much. I'm sure I speak with Jake as well. But, yeah, man, we'll talk to you soon and next week. And hope you have a good night. Enjoy being back in the States and safe and sound.
See you, Coach.
Always a pleasure, guys. All right, Jake. You guys take care.
Yep, have a good one. And that is the Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey from Team Sonnen, signing off. Good man, always spends time with us. He's back in the States. He took a brief hiatus from the show, but he is actually one of the co-hosts on the show. In case you didn't know, now you know. Speaking of co-hosts, Jake, man. What did you think of Kelvin's, we were talking about earlier with the coach, but it was going to be the next topic. What did you think of Kelvin whooping Rick Story's ass?
Like a doctor.
It became a close decision, but we all know who was dominating the whole time. We all could have guessed who was going to win that at any point during the fight. What was your take, though, man? Kelvin Gastelum, the KG, whooping ass on the Rick Story. What was your take, man? What's up?
I was really nervous after the weigh-ins. You and I both are very observant when they do the weigh-ins, and Kelvin did not look like the cut was going well. Obviously, he missed weight the first time around. He ended up making weight, but he just looked really fatigued. So first and foremost, props to Kelvin. He could not have felt at 100% on Saturday, but he still went out there like a damn doctor and did work against the Rick Story. I mean, yeah, he has been a little shaky recently, but he's one of two men, or you know what? He is the only man to beat Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks with 2 losses on his record. One of those is a bullshit decision loss to George St. Pierre. Really, the only man Johnny Hendricks has ever lost to is Rick Story. Story, a damn brick. We watched him with a really impressive fight against Brian Ebersol at UFC 167.
I think Mike Pierce whooped Hendricks' ass, but all right.
Well, I mean, the only man to really beat him. Not a controversial decision, just beat him. And Kelvin Gastelum went out there. Jamie made an excellent point. He really was working his jab excellently. And now he's number 13 in the welterweight division. He is ranked, finally. He should have been ranked before in my eyes, but he is officially ranked now. Number 13 behind Jake Shields and Mike Pyle. I don't know who I want next for Kelvin Gastelum. All I know is recently they announced they're doing a UFC card in Albuquerque in June. I know Gastelum is doing fine. I would love to see Gastelum maybe versus like a Mike Pyle for a co-main event in Albuquerque.
Yeah, that would be nice, man. Either way, he's gonna run through whoever's next for him list. I mean, at this point, I think Kelvin could whoop Well, let's talk about it, man. The new welterweight champion, Johnny Hendricks, defeating Robbie Lawler, dude. So now of course, by default, Johnny Hendricks is the new champ. GSP vacated its title. Seriously, that fight, of course, I'll get your take on it overall, but Johnny Hendricks as the champ, how long do you think this shit is gonna last, Jake? What's your take?
That's an interesting question. The welterweight division is full of a bunch of killers. Obviously, Rory, Tyron Woodley, Nick Diaz, Matt Brown, Hector Lombard, Jake Ellenberger. You have Condit, who I'm looking at the rankings now. For some reason, Condit's third and Woodley's fourth, even though Woodley just beat Condit. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, there are a bunch of killers at welterweight. In my eyes, it's easily one of the most stacked divisions. But Johnny Hendricks, he's got the tools. I mean, he's got the wrestling. He's probably the best wrestler currently in the welterweight division. And those hands, man, he and Robbie Lawler went at it, and Robbie Lawler is a monster. Just looking at the people who could fight Johnny coming up, Nick Diaz, Rory, Tyron. I have Johnny winning all those fights. So for the foreseeable future, I think Johnny is going to be a champ for a while.
I don't know, man. Of course, I think Johnny was riding. Of course, I'm not taking anything away from his wins or success, but of course, he got to the title shot by being like this guy with the one punch knockout, and we haven't seen that lately, man. Him and Robbie Lawler, there was, of course, there was no one punch knockout, but there pretty much was no wrestling to speak of either. That's why I'm thinking, man, Johnny Hendricks, and while I got you on, I mean, fuck it, like guys like him and Jake Shields and Carlos Conduit. Of course, his knee was destroyed. It just blew up spontaneously like he was Patrick Cote during the fight. But Jake Shields, Johnny Hendricks, and Carlos Conduit, man, I mean, of course, Jake Shields and Conduit, are they on the decline in your opinion after 171, but their most recent fights? I mean, Carlos is of course out for a while now. I mean, that knee slid off his bone like it was prime rib cooked in Texas, man. Like, when you bite into a rib and it just slides off the bone, dude. That's what that injury looked like to me, man. I got a bad knee, of course, as everybody knows that has paid attention to this show. I got a bad knee. Seeing that shit to happen to Carlos Conduit, it made me sick, man. It was disgusting. I almost puked. It literally, you just saw like his leg just shrug off his kneecap, just shrug it off like it was trying to get rid of it, man.
It looked like someone pulling a bone out of a chicken wing or something.
Exactly, man. It was just a broken flap off wing, dude. Except it was his kneecap. But yeah, and then of course Jake Shields gets tossed around like a white belt by Hector Lombard.
I thought that was so impressive.
That fight wasn't even funny, man. It was like when the cat is toying with the mouse and not even killing it, but y'all know he's going to. That's what that entire fight was like, man. So Jake Shields and Carlos Conduit, man, they were destroyed effectively. Are they on their way out, or you think it was just a bad night, bad couple last fights, or I mean, like, is that what we're seeing, man? Like, the new blood's moving in. These guys are barely even 30 years old, but they're already on their way out, dude.
I would say,
and of course, the Johnny Hendricks thing.
I would say Shields is a little bit more on the way out than Condit just because of their age, but I wouldn't say necessarily either one of them's on their way out. Condit's lost 3 of his last 4, yeah, but before that he was on a historic streak. And those losses are to George St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks, 2 legends, and Tyron Woodley. In a fight, honestly, he probably would have still lost. The knee injury was horrible. Very interested how he bounces back, but he's only 29. He's still in his 20s. He's still looking good. Shields is 35. Shields is getting up there. But at the same time, you look at his losses. He also was on a historic streak before his last 3 losses, one of which to George St. Pierre. The other one was to Jake Ellenberger when he was going through a really terrible time losing his dad, and Hector Lombard. I mean, I have a few things I'm very adamant about. One was I really want to see Cormier and Jones fight that I've been saying for a while. I've been saying for a year or so that Hector Lombard could be a future welterweight champ. I honestly think he's he's one of the most dangerous opponents that Johnny Hendricks could face, whether it's just in raw talent or skill set versus skill set. Lombard is an animal. Jake Shields and Carlos Condit, they're not on the way out. We will hear more from them still, even though it might be a while till we see Condit back in the cage. I'm hoping he can make a return by early next year.
Yeah, well, that injury looked pretty goddamn bad, and I have to say, I don't think that sort of thing, your knee exploding, I don't think that happens on fight night. That was probably a little bit of a pre-existing like strain, and then it turns into the kind of tear that we saw go down. But not to take anything away from Tyrone Woodley or Tyron Woodley or whatever the hell his damn name is, Woodley, man. He's just Tyrone to me. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry, but not to take anything away from him. He's a hitter. It looks like he might. He's probably, if he's not the next title shot, he's going to be the next one, it looks like. Unless, of course, his knee also explodes or something crazy. But yeah, I mean, a year ago, I remember watching this guy fight in Strikeforce against Nate Marquardt or something like that. That was a damn good fight. But still, I mean, and of course, Robbie Lawler, of course, a year ago, where was he? And he got the title shot when guys like Rory and of course your Mike Pierces are still on the sidelines. What do you think? Who's going to challenge Johnny for the belt, dude? And do you think they have any chance, or are they going to let Johnny sit with the belt for a while? You know how I always view it, man. To me, it's all planned out in advance.
Who do I think earns it next is difficult. I don't think any one fighter deserves it. Probably who deserves it the most, either Rory or Tyron Woodley. But who I think gets it next, I think the UFC is going to give it to Nick Diaz. A lot of people are going, that's crazy. I know it's crazy. His last two fights were title shots. He lost. But, you've got to look at it. The UFC is in the position now where they can match up Rory and Tyron, and that is a legitimate 100% title contenders match. Maybe match up Lombard and Kem next, I don't know. But they could match up Diaz and Hendricks. When I saw the UFC release a video, the UFC had a camera crew following Nick Diaz heckle Johnny Hendricks at the weigh-ins. Why would they do that? What purpose would the UFC have to filming this? Well, obviously they would film it for the footage. They would want the footage of Diaz yelling at Johnny Hendricks. Why would they want footage of Nick Diaz yelling at Johnny Hendricks? I think the reason is that they're going to give him a title shot.
And all of a sudden the welterweight division is the one that everybody's talking about. 2 years ago, the only thing anybody cared about was the middleweight division. Of course, that's on lockdown by Chris Weidman. I don't see him losing any goddamn time soon. He's going to fight Machida next. Machida, of course, I saw it, people. He broke his damn foot. It's too soon for him to come back. This is a setup if I've ever seen one. Of course, Machida can't say no. It's a title shot. But he needed a lot more time. That was a battle that he went through with Gegard Mousasi, man. And that's saying a lot that he won that one, man. But immediately, Jake, Hendo versus Shogun, the rematch is going down this Sunday. Sunday. Not Saturday, people. Of course, the first fight was a war. One of the greatest UFC fights of all time. I do have to agree with Joe Rogan on this one, man. He wasn't just saying that time. It really was. The rematch, though, I think, personally, Hendo and Shogun, I don't think they have anything left in the tank. I don't see any reason for them to want to take chances on the Lord's Day, on a Sunday of all days. They're both, they'd both rather just, just put on a little bit of a sparring session, glorified at that, and go home with some money that night. I think they learned their lesson the first time, and they earned their way to this. I don't see another war going down. I mean, anybody expecting this to be greater than the first fight? I think they're going to be sorely disappointed, but what do you think, Jake? Shogun versus Hendo this Sunday going down.
You can't expect it to be as good as the first one. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of UFC fights, MMA fights, and that was one of the best of all time. Saying that, though, I still think it's going to be a decent fight. Both of these guys are guys who like to exchange. Recently, Hendo, his game has been almost 100% standing and striking. We've seen in Shogun's last few fights that he's a lot more interested in striking than he is going to the ground. And both of these guys, even if they might not want to injure themselves, they're very aggressive. And then again, we have tons of fights where, we have two aggressive guys standing up and nothing really comes out of it. So I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't the most exciting fight. I'd be shocked if it was like a grappling match, because I'm pretty sure this is going to remain standing. But, whether or not it's nearly as good as the first one, as a fan of MMA, it's nice to see two legends of the sport, guys who have been around for over 10, 15 years, go in there and duke it out.
That's all fucked up, man. And we are getting to the close of the show, almost here, but a couple more topics. The news, of course.
I want to talk about that steak tartare nonsense with Diego.
That was actually the first question I was going to ask you. Great minds, Jake. I was going to ask, have you ever had beef tartare or raw quail egg?
Fuck no, dude. There's a reason you cook food. Like when, all right. When I buy chicken, I would say chicken breast cooked in the oven or on the stove is what I eat the most. When I have raw ground beef, when I have raw chicken and I'm preparing it by cutting it up or marinating it or mixing up with garlic, whatever the fuck I'm doing, I'm like repulsed by the raw meat. Whether it's like beef and it's all like squishy and shit, or chicken, literally you have to wash chicken off first thing in warm water so you don't get salmonella. Like, raw meat is not only not at all appetizing to me, but it's like dangerous. You have like all this different shit on it. So I don't know what really the allure is. I mean, if you put like if you put steak, like a $50 plate of steak tartare and like stale old almonds that went bad like 5 years ago in front of me, I'd probably eat the stale old almonds because I know I can eat it and I'm not gonna get sick as hell.
Anytime I'm dealing with,
what the fuck is this, Rocky? Like, come on.
That's what it looked like, man. It looked, that raw egg just cracked open on a piece of what appears to be a hamburger patty uncooked. That's what beef tartare is. I'm sorry. It's just the expensive, instead of, the ground beef, it's just the expensive shit just pounded into a beef patty and served up raw. It's disgusting. But yeah, it looks exactly like the kind of shit that Rocky would put in the blender and then drink it raw. And that'd be hard. He'd even make a face, man. Even Rocky. But yeah, anytime I got the same problem. Anytime I'm cooking anything, dealing with raw meat, it's like during the whole cooking session, I'll wash my hands at least 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, you're just so paranoid about that. Like, there's something about touching raw red meat. You instantly assume it's death. Like, it's poisoned until you cook it, is basically the way I see any raw meat when I handle it. It's poison until you cook it and burn the evil bacteria away, and even then you're not even sure, man.
I mean, even damn Les Stroud is cooking his meat. Like, if if the Survivor man even refuses to eat food raw, come on, son.
Yeah, man. These although I do enjoy, and I don't care who. Well, I wouldn't like pick it up off the damn street curb, but sushi though, I gotta say, man, I instantly just trust anybody
Trush.
that's serving up sushi for some reason, man. It's not the same as raw red meat for some damn reason, or raw. Yeah, just something about the raw fish slices. You can see it's not. I don't know what the fuck the difference is, man, and I'm sorry. But yeah, the beef tartare thing with Diego Sanchez saying it's what cost him. I mean, he's basically saying it cost him the win. The fact that he was feeling so shitty from eating this food. And I think it's hilarious because, of course, like, Diego Sanchez is the last person that you associate with fine dining. I would have guessed, I would have been more believable if he was like me and my training coaches, man. Right after the weigh-ins, we went to Taco Bell and it was all fucked up, man. I don't feel good. But no, he went with, the beef tartare with the raw quail leg, probably on the menu, maybe tops 40 to 50 bucks. But when you take into account the fact that he's claiming it cost him the win bonus, that was probably a $16,000 quail leg.
Yeah, and like, he obviously has matured a bunch, and I don't want to compare this Diego Sanchez to the Diego Sanchez of old, because obviously he really has matured a lot. But, it just shows the kind of impulsive person that Diego is. Whether it's, just standing and banging in a fight, he's not really showing the best strategy in. Whether it's getting up drunk during the World MMA Awards, and I hate to bring that dark spot up because Diego, like I said, is obviously matured and is a good person, but it just seems like all these impulsive things that he does. I mean, even like, I don't know. I'm not a UFC fighter, but I mean, just as a person, I know that eating raw meat, there's a hazard there. There's a hazard of getting sick. Whether or not Diego Sanchez really was sick because of beef tartare, only Diego knows that. Diego and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Praise his name.
Yeah, Diego, I mean, he's not typically making excuses, so I don't think it's an excuse. I just wonder, like you're gonna order a potentially hazardous menu item the night before you have a fight that your career could hinge on. I don't know. It's questionable,
the choice
to say the
itself doesn't
least.
make sense. It is questionable. The choice itself. Who the hell cuts over 20 pounds and then that's their first craving?
Bro, and I looked at the menu.
Quail leg.
Diego tweeted out the menu of the place he ate at. That was like this, dude. That was a delicious looking menu. They have like all this different shit. You got ribeye cooked to perfection. It wasn't like it was like a weird restaurant. And you only had crazy shit to eat. No, it was just the one fucked up item. I don't know, man. That
literally he ordered the worst thing on the menu. Literally, that's the part that doesn't make sense, man. It's like, yeah, you're trying to go fancy or something. I mean, but like. What I'm getting at, man, is how high was this guy? Like, that's what he went with? I don't know, man. That's the last thing I would order. Even if I was smoked into the point of oblivion, the state of oblivion, critical condition. Raw quail leg and beef tartare, man.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up, man. But he fought pretty good, considering. It's just he's blaming his entire loss on this meal.
I thought Miles Jury really went out there and proved that he deserves to face a top 10 lightweight, that he is the real deal.
Yeah, it was a good fight. I mean, I gotta watch.
I'd love to see Jury versus Iaquinta. I know Al's fighting in May, but I think both guys are fucking killers. I'd love to see that fight. And they're both tough alumnus.
You should put that fight together, man. Well, I'll put you in touch with Mr. Silva. What else is What else is going down immediately?
Yeah,
though?
both of them were actually on the same season. I thought so. The Cruz Faber season. What the hell else is going on? GSP run his mouth about PEDs. I thought it was hilarious. GSP saying, "Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of effort to pass a drug test whenever you're doping." Like,
Yeah, it was like he was
I
like,
read it. I was like, like you've got to be really disorganized to fail a drug test or something.
yeah, it was like it's like okay, he would never admit to it, but who are you talking about, GSP? How do you know all this, GSP?
Mister
He was
HGH
basically,
gut.
yeah, it was basically confessions from a former champion, but of course he doesn't owe it to anybody. He doesn't have anybody to answer to anymore. Thankfully, I think he is being honest, but the fact that he's saying that was like he's trying to paint it so that it seems like that was the PED, the steroid testing, the hypocrisy about it in the UFC and MMA in general. He's trying to make it seem like that was the reason why he retired. He's trying to imply that at least. And in my opinion, that is bullshit. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think he's got some personal shit that he's just hopefully not avoiding, but definitely in the public eye. Dude's avoiding some shit, man. He's making this shit up about
Yeah,
PEDs
and the guy talked about having a really bad case of OCD, and he talks about being obsessed. And when he's building up to a fight, he can't do anything but think about the fight, and it's very stressful and all this. I have said it before. I don't want people to think I hate GSP. If I met him, I would smile and honestly tell him that I enjoyed his fights. I think he's probably a very good person. He's honest. He has these moments of honesty, like on the Rogan show when he talked about aliens, and now when he refutes Dana White's claims. Seeing honesty in somebody that's got such a history in the sport is awesome. But at the same time, don't get it twisted. I think he's a nice guy and think he's a good person, but I don't think he's a good role model for the sport. Whether it's this HGH stuff, whether it's him, and of course I'm speaking as a big fan of BJ Penn, but the guy, we all watched him cheat during a fight. We all watched his corner cover his back in Vaseline. Yeah. Penn is a guy who fights off his back, utilizes the rubber guard a fuckload, and that completely negates that. I like George. I like his fights.
Didn't GSP poke a few eyes also?
I think that was mainly cost check. It may have happened once or twice, but I don't think he really was ever known for it. But George, I just these certain things. There are pictures of him in training, and it almost looks photoshopped. He has a gut, but it's like a gut made of like his stomach is sticking out, but you can still see abdominal muscles, and that is a telltale sign of HGH and steroids. It's called an HGH gut. And we'll never prove it, and I'll never say 100% GSP did steroids, so he's bad for the sport. Yeah, I think he did steroids, but just all this stuff, and now him making excuses about PEDs, and he's still in a way pointing at Johnny Hendricks, which is a fucking shame. There is nobody that GSP fought who, in my eyes, I suspect of taking PEDs more than George St. Pierre himself. So I think all of this is sort of just him trying to deflect everything. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from GSP fans. And again, he's a nice dude. But I just think for the sport, it's good that he's stepped away. Johnny, I think, is a much better representative. Even Robbie would have been. And that's my 2 cents on GSP.
I hear you, man. And of course, as always, we'll try to get the former champion GSP on the show at some point. He has called in the past, but he's hard to nail down, man. You gotta give him a reason to. But yeah, dude, I I don't believe him. I don't think the steroid thing was even. And yes, he of course he obviously was on the juice. Um, of course, I have no proof of this. It's all just speculation, as I have to legally say. But come on, people,
Allegedly.
who are we kidding here? Like, seeing is believing. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that him and Johnny Hendricks were going back and forth about it, like I've said.
I actually have a quote here in front of me. This is what GSP said specifically. Where are we? Here it is. I said it even before when I met with them, and by them he means Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta. This I swear. I met them after my fight with Johnny Hendricks. When I went in the back, I said that to them. I said that to them. I swear on myself and my family. And he was talking about his concerns about PEDs. Quote, I have personal issues and also the drug testing has something to do with it. This is the truth. I said at first I can't use the kind of language I'd like to use in the way that I told them because I did not use the right language. Very nice language. When I said that to them, I made references to very bad things, and I cannot tell you the way I said it because I never want to accuse one individual, which is very vague. Seems like he's pointing directly at Johnny Hendricks, which again is a fucking shame. He actually went on saying they were not surprised. I don't believe they were surprised. I told them and they were like, oh, you think so? And I was like, yeah, I know for a fact. Lorenzo's a good person. He understands that it's true. I believe the problem is not the UFC, it's the system. It's a new sport, and the last thing I want is to hurt UFC. I want to elevate the sport. I think it is the next step for elevate the sport, that it should be done. The system is not in place. There are no guidelines. The way they test now is not good. It's not good the way they test. If you get caught on steroid now, it's because you are very disorganized. It's so easy to beat the test. It's ridiculous. It's not a real test.
Yep, I just don't buy it, man. The reason I don't is because GSP, man, he's not consistent here. Okay? There's no way that I'm gonna believe anything he has to say about the truth of the sport and this and that and testing when I don't even believe that he's being honest about his inference, his implication that he was abducted by aliens. He has shown no proof of this. That's the problem. He had absolutely no proof, but he was going with it. And to me, I'm just keeping it real as a human being. He loses a little bit of credibility in my mind. You can't just claim you're abducted by aliens and then offer up absolutely no proof. I understand there may not be any if it is the case, but then you're also making statements about the rules in MMA when, like, this guy's, wait a minute, 5 minutes ago, this man believes he was abducted by aliens from outer space, and now he's trying to deny the fact that he did roids and that he has a problem with the rules and it should be this and that. He's trying to make reasonable arguments after making an unreasonable argument of the magnitude of being abducted by things that have not even been proven to exist. What I'm saying is GSP lacks a little bit of credibility. I think, honestly, he probably at some point had a nervous breakdown and lost his goddamn mind. And for that reason alone, he has not shown me that his mind is back. So I'll just keep assuming until he's willing to at least concede that maybe he's not been abducted by aliens. Maybe he is the victim of being, repetitive blows to the head, taking away some of his mental capacity, short-term memory, the early signs of pugilistic dementia is what I'm trying to say. Maybe he should cop to that first to gain some of his credibility back, because I don't believe him anymore because of the alien shit, man. And I'm sorry, Jake. I know a lot of people are it's just funny to them. It's like GSP's talking about aliens and they shrug it off, because, who isn't crazy? But they shrug it off. But to me, I question his judgment entirely after that. What do you, Jake, do you believe in aliens?
Yeah, but I don't believe aliens come down in their spaceship and suck people up in their spaceship for 2 hours and spit them back out. I think there are other intelligent beings in the universe. The universe is so impossibly big for us to think we're the only animals that can build shit and process stuff is kind of cocky. Whether or not they've contacted us, who the fuck knows. But GSP saying that, oh yes, I have lapses in time. I am driving to training, and then all of a sudden I am there, and I have no recollection. Rogan made an amazing point. He's like, dude, that's not aliens. That's brain damage. Like you're a fighter.
Exactly.
You're a pro fighter. You've been hitting the head a fuckload.
Or
That's
at least brain
bro.
damage is more likely the case than making the giant leap of being abducted by galaxy-faring aliens.
And what are they doing, George? Are they so impressed with your performance that they're sucking you up and like poking, prodding your fucking asshole with a probe? Like seriously.
Saying, man, you have to question his entire judgment at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, he's not the champion anymore. It's official. It is Johnny Hendricks. Congratulations to this guy.
I was so worried we were going to see a draw. I actually scored the fight 48-48. I gave the first round a 10-10, the second round and fifth round to Johnny Hendricks, the third and fourth round to Robbie Lawler. That third round was almost a 10-8. Doug Crosby, my least favorite referee in the world, he pulled that bullshit after Penn Edgar won. Doug Crosby somehow gave Johnny a 10-8 round, but didn't score round 3 to Robbie Lawler 10-8, which that was obviously the most impressive round by anyone in that fight. So Doug Crosby, you're still at fucking clown status. I scored it 48-48. Thought it was an amazing fight. Glad Johnny won, just because he's deserved the belt since November. Let's be serious.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. He definitely should have knocked GSP out in that first fight. I mean, that was a mistake. He had it within his power, within his capability. I mean, this wasn't like a rough. That one wasn't the rough weight cut. I mean, I think, of course, like he looked delirious and like shit on the scale this time around. So I can understand why maybe he did cut it close. He didn't have enough to even try to finish Robbie Lawler. He's claiming his like right arm was all fucked up. I think it was his shoulder or his elbow or something, all fucked up going into the fight. I believe that. I mean, he was complaining about it during the fight, but I mean, holy shit, Robbie Lawler. Definitely, I think he fought a smart fight, but what the fuck, man? Next time, don't spend less time smiling. All right, let's
part of Robbie's
let's punch this guy.
Part of Robbie's new game is to not be as aggressive and to still be aggressive, but not go 100% after it. And wear yourself out. I think there were times he definitely could have been a bit more aggressive. And I personally like the whole laughing thing. I think it's a bit of good psychological warfare. Like, in the build-up to the fight, we didn't see Robbie smile once. In the countdown video, in the press conference, at the weigh-ins, he was stone-faced, pillar to pillar. Him smiling during the fights, for a guy you never see smile to break out a huge grin, that can make you think, like, what the fuck during a fight. So I actually liked it, but at times he was like overdoing it. He would be like in the middle of a huge flurry, and then Robbie would hit him, and then Johnny would hit him, and then he'd stop punching just to like back up and show Johnny a big old smile.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
That's when you're wasting time. That's when it's like, that is not the time to smile. Like, definitely smart fight, but well, shit, he didn't get it done, man. Like, that's why I agree with the decision. I mean, if they'd given it to Robbie, I would have been also in agreement. It was one of those. I do agree with you. It probably was. I mean, realistically, it was a draw. Nobody actually won that fight. I mean, like, if it happened in the street, you'd be like, nobody really won that fucking fight. But, of course, this one, 10 taking over a vacated title, you had to have some sort of decision. So of course, these judges, man. Of course, this was the worst case scenario, leaving it up to them. In Dallas, Texas, of course, it was going to be home cooking. I was tweeting and saying that as soon as it went to the 5th round, and did Johnny steal the fight? I think he was stealing rounds. Definitely, that was part of his. That was part of his
5th round takedown. He won. He won the UFC welterweight championship with that 5th round takedown.
Yep, that was it. Yeah, that was basically the entire fight. That's why it went to him. I do agree with that, man. And in that sense, like, it was razor close with a dude that's only been in the UFC about a year. Robbie Lawler, man, definitely good fight, smart fight, but he just didn't. Damn, he was just that right swing away, just a little bit more power, a little bit more commitment. He needed to take at least one risk, and he had several opportunities during the fight, and he never took that one big. He didn't go out there, he didn't go out with that KO. He didn't try for the finish when he actually did probably have it in front of him. That cost him the damn fight, but, I'm a fan now. He could have won me a lot of fucking money. I gotta be honest about that. A little bit of, I laid down a little money, and next week on the show, hopefully we'll have Luca Fury, gambling aficionado, expert. Yeah,
he's been killing it in 2014 as well, man.
FuriesFightPicks.com, people. He's he's pretty much a private MMA UFC fight handicapper, if you will. He's got his bet picks. He's a successful gambler, good record.
And check out the MMA Odds Cast, which, yes, it is a very similar name to the MMA podcast, but you know what? We all can live in harmony here, and the MMA podcast promotes the MMA Odds Cast. I actually tweeted him out last week. I give it a listen every now and then. It's a quality show. If you are into looking to put money on the fights, or whether you just want to know a little bit more about the fights, hear about the perspective of the fights from somebody who is a legit MMA. I mean, dude has been absolutely on fire all year. I think his free pick was on Woodley, which, he wasn't upset. He earned an upset against Condit, but Luca Fleury, the MMA Odds Cast, they're the shit.
Yeah, I think he's almost up to it. Almost a 75% prediction.
That's insane.
Rate.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. That's unheard of when you're actually laying down money, and he's backing it up. This guy runs a website saying, I have the best bet picks, and so far he's been proving it. I don't know anybody that's got him topped. No, I don't know anybody. Fuck it. So yeah, man, if your thing is betting money, I think he charges like $25, but FuriesFightPicks.com. He's getting it right, better than the other sites out there, and we hope to have him on the podcast next week. Of course, after we give a little tough recap with Coach Jamie Huey, who said he would more than likely be on. But yeah, hopefully we'll have Luca Fury just breaking it down. I'm not going to be like asking him, who do you think's going to win this week, or but we will get a gambling 101, which a lot of people don't know shit about gambling, especially on fights. I mean, you hear somebody's plus 225 against a plus 115 or something, you're like, what the fuck does this mean? Or minus 115, like, what the fuck? We'll break down the basics, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to get all crazy here.
Yeah.
This isn't a gambling podcast.
Just really quickly, for people who hear lines and have no idea what it means, plus means if you bet 100, you will get this amount of money, and it's always over 100. So plus means they're an underdog, and you will get more. You will more than double your money. Minus means they're a favorite. You won't double your money, and you have to bet that amount of dollars to win 100. So plus 200 means if you bet 100, you get 200 profit. Minus 200 means you have to bet 200 to get $100 profit.
So basically, when you're betting and gambling, it's pretty much like a flipped. It's a 360. It's flipped. All right. Minus it means they're good.
Yeah,
They'll probably win.
exactly.
Positive means they're supposed to lose. Actually,
Yeah,
they have the
so
plus
like
sign.
minus. Sorry.
No, go ahead, man. If they have the plus sign, it's bad, basically.
Yeah, I thought you were done. Sorry for cutting you off. Yeah, and even to that extent, common sense. If a guy's plus 100, he's pretty good. If he's plus 1,000, he's even better. It's the opposite. If you're the higher the plus, the less of a chance you have to win, because that's the amount of profit you're gonna make off $100. And the higher the minus, if it's like a minus 1,000, you have to bet $1,000 to win 100. They're pretty much a lock. I think Daniel Cormier was like a minus 1,200 against our boy Pat Cummins, who actually, even though he did get pretty handled by Cormier, I think is going to have a good career in the UFC.
Oh yeah, that was one of the other news topics here. Pat Cummins, of course, well, he was destroyed by Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
In the first round. It was over before it even began. But I did get a chance to catch up with him earlier today on Twitter. Just one back and forth. I asked him if he at least used the money to purchase a car. Of course, he was getting around on a bicycle. And he tweeted back that no, he was still two-wheeling it. Still got the bicycle. But he is looking into a hatchback on Craigslist. I hope he gets it, pimps it out, does his thing.
Yeah. The only other news topic I could think of, we didn't really talk about. I think last word on the street we talked about Gil coming back to the UFC, the crazy TRT debacle with them banning it and Vitor dropping out and Lyoto replacing him. But I think all this craziness with the women's division has sort of popped up since the last word.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Gina Carano, Cyborg, and Holly Holm, and who's gonna fight Ronda? What do you make of all this goddamn mess, man? I don't even know.
I think probably Cyborg deserves a shot the most if they were gonna give any of them a shot. The UFC current in the women's bantamweight division, I think Jessica Ai probably deserves it the most if Kat still can't fight. Kat, I still think, is the heir to the throne as far as being, if she's able to fight, being the first woman up for a shot. I mean, she completely demolished Miesha Tate. If Kat's not available, Davis, I think, makes sense, but the UFC knows a Rousey-Davis fight is not really going to be that marketable. You're probably not going to see many people tune into it, but you have these three women, Holly Holm tearing it up, Cyborg, obviously one of the more well-known women in the world. The UFC, she's still hasn't cut to 135 from 145 though. And Gina Carano, who's been on a huge hiatus since fighting Cyborg years ago. I think if anything were to happen, even though it doesn't make the most sense skill-wise, I think you make Rousey Carano immediately, just because you know the views are going to be there. I mean, these are not only the two faces of women's mixed martial arts. First it was Carano and then Rousey. These women are both crazy beautiful, and the UFC could make a lot of money promoting Carano, Rousey, and then Cyborg Holm for, who's the best striker, because even though Cyborg has a history of knocking a bunch of women out, this Holly Holm chick looks dangerous. Apparently she's very close to a deal with the UFC.
Yeah, Gina Carano, though, come on. I'd like to see that one happen. Why the hell not? They'd make her... Gina Carano, of course, is a beautiful woman, as it is, but getting her down to 135, I gotta say, man, that'd be kind of hot. You guys look her up on the YouTube, choking out Jimmy Norton from the Opie and Anthony show. She's a babe there. She's probably weighing about 150 pounds. All right, imagine her just... What? I'm not kidding anybody here. I just want to see the most attractive women fight each other at this point, because I don't think that anybody's gonna beat Ronda. I mean, she really is probably the best fighter out there right now. I don't think that I really, after seeing her just knee the shit out of Sarah McMahon's liver, it's like, what more do you need to see? She's not just arm barring these bitches anymore. She's making it real. She's proved herself to me, at least. But so yeah, man, if we're gonna give her these stunt fights, these let's not make any mistake here. What the women's division is also partly about. I mean, the men like to see these girls, and the hotter they are, the better. And Carano versus Rousey, I think that sells a little bit more, probably more than the Cyborg fight, in my opinion, man. I mean, the hardcores are gonna want to see Cyborg versus Rousey fight, but the Gina Carano fight versus Rousey, I think that's even more appealing, especially since Cyborg doesn't. I mean, she doesn't really speak English, right? And these two would be able to promote the fuck out of this fight, is what I'm saying. So I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping it goes down. Congratulations to Honda Housey. Hey, Jake, before we get out of here, have you seen, did you watch Renato Laranja's new movie, directed by Eddie Bravo and Cristo Garcia, entitled Revenge of the Death Knuckle? No?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God damn it. You haven't had the 10 free spare minutes, because that's what it is. It's only 10 minutes long, people. It's on YouTube. Just search Revenge of the Death Knuckle. All right? It will change your life forever. It is the best acting I have ever seen, at least in an independent film on YouTube, under 20 minutes.
I have a 52-second trailer I can play.
Yeah, why the fuck not, man? I'll get a chance to smoke a little bit before we just close it out.
That's right.
And sign
smoke a
off.
little bit, smoke a lot of bits, son. Let's play this shit.
Right.
Oh shit. We got a shot of a house. 2 years ago, an evil force was unleashed upon Los Angeles. We got Hanato shadowboxing. The evil force has returned. Revenge of the Death Knuckle. We're halfway through. There's no voices or anything. Yeah, there was no acting in that trailer. Kind of disappointed for an audio-only show, but you know what? We do what we can here.
Don't worry, people. What you have to do is, as soon as this is over, as soon as you've heard me speak these next words here, you go on that fucking YouTube and you type in the search box, Revenge of the Death.
What you wanting, brother? What's happening?
This is Flavio De Souza, Interpol's 10th most wanted man.
Brazilian, capoeira black belt, cop killer.
I don't want you guys taking any unnecessary risks out there. He's already killed one cop, and you know. Got it, Chief.
Music.
That's right, and lots of fighting. I don't know if we're gonna see much more dialogue here.
Look, Jake, I'm not fucking around, man. After this is over, like, you have to watch Revenge of the Death Knuckle, dude.
I will.
It's 11 minutes long. Midway through, he actually breaks a hooker's neck. All right, and like this fan of Renato Laranja's was willing to go all out. Like, they actually, like, in real life, they broke her neck. Like, she paid the ultimate price. But it's all captured on camera. She's all hookered out, and he breaks her neck. And then he sets her down and says, "I'm sorry. I had to break it off." And then he walks away from her twitching corpse. And it was real, too.
I think we have a little Joey Diaz to play at the end of this while we finish our bong hits, cocksucker.
Why do all you young kids always start off with fucking Jet Li? It's Bruce Lee. You understand me? Bruce Lee.
Didn't Bruce Lee die from a gunshot in a movie?
No, that's his fucking son, knucklehead.
Hell yeah, man. Joey Diaz, Uncle Joey Karate. We've been trying to get him on either show for years now. Maybe this will be the year, 2014. Uncle Joey Karate. He's also in, he's briefly in Revenge of the Death Knuckle. Shout out to Eddie Bravo. He did actually encourage the word on the street to be birthed into the YouTube world. Helped cover out a few episodes of the classic Word on the Street videos on YouTube. Just in closing, check me out. The Twitter name is probably going to change pretty damn soon, but it is the Aunt Jimmy Show on Twitter. Check me out on YouTube. Just search Word on the Street podcast. You can see all the previous interviews we've had. It'll change your mind. It'll change your life. We've had quality guests. Check out the Kelvin interviews. The Uriah Halls, the Marina interviews. Mike Pierce.
Speak up, son.
Other people, it doesn't matter. Next week, definitely tune in. Coach Huey said it was going to be a damn good one. Hopefully you'll have Luca Fury, furiesfightpicks.com on. Jake, where can people find you at the MMA Podcast? What's up? When's the next show? What's happening?
You can follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. We do this show every Wednesday night. Tune in tomorrow night. We got John Jones on. We love the shit out of all of you. We do it big here with the MMA Podcast. Visit themmmapodcast.com. Click on the iTunes and YouTube banners at the top. Subscribe to us there. iTunes, we only have a limited amount of bandwidth, so if you can swing it, I'd suggest YouTube, because not only is the audio quality a little bit better, but we have the full damn archive. Ramses, I love the shit out of you. I'll see you tomorrow on the MMA Podcast. Hell yeah.
Weed kills you. Weed makes you worthless.
Late.
Hell yeah.
Take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you gonna get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm gonna set it for you real quick.